Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Legal Zone. I am Pat Hilton, joined by Zach Hoffman, and we are
Morning,
live.
Pat.
How are you, buddy?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing awesome, man. We are live on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and now Facebook Live as well, broadcasting all over the globe, giving you the news in the Legal Zone. So, Zach, explain to the audience what the Legal Zone is going to be on their Monday mornings.
So the Legal Zone is going to encompass all things and trends legal that are happening right now in this space, and things that you could do to basically even catch up. Like if you see your competitors running ahead, you want to know tips and tricks to actually get ahead of your competitors, or at least get in line. We're going to share those with you as to what's happening from like a seasonal aspect as well as a planning perspective, and help you get ahead of the competition.
I love it, dude. You all know how we
sure.
do things. Let's jump right into it. Zach, lead the charge.
Yeah.
Fire off some rounds here.
Yeah, so we're going to cover a few different topics. We're going to talk about car and auto accidents, motor vehicle accidents. Then we're going to get into motorcycle accidents. And then a big seasonal thing when it comes into summer is the hurricane season in a lot of areas of the country. So that seems to, really be a big thing. But to get started, as we go here into summer, does have a section of summer called the 100 Deadliest Days, which is the run of time from Memorial Day to Labor Day. But in general, there seems to be a complete uptick in car accidents and auto accidents throughout the summer. So it's really critical to have your marketing ramped up and positioned to capture the market share when people are in their cars over the summer and, getting into unfortunate accidents.
Yep. And our job as service providers is to make sure that we help people get to those people that have had accidents so that they can service those people, help those people, and help them get into a better situation, because something like that can be catastrophic to somebody's family and to their financial future.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. Speaking of family, so the probability and the increase of summer travel when it comes to vacations and having your family in the car, it is a reality. And people are typically more concerned when their children might be involved, or there's actual like car accident, auto accident that impacted the whole family. There's an increase in weekend travel, vacation travel, as well as out of town travel, which means that people are either driving in your state from out of state, or you might be going to visit another state. It might not be used to what they do from perspective of standard driving. So you have to be cautious, and you have to be ready, and make sure that if something does happen, that you're prepared, but also do your research ahead of time, or prepare your clients and your consumers to do research ahead of time, and be the information rung, be the one getting the information out there as to increase car and auto safety for their family when they're out there, over the holiday season, over the summer season, just going out on vacations, and also what to do if they're hit by an out of town driver. The different things that they could, do to be as prepared as possible.
I think that's awesome. And as a social media agency, we always want to focus on, especially working in collaboration with you, making sure that the client's page is updated with valuable information, bullet points, tips, graphics, videos that are explainers, that are informational, that are knowledgeable, that are educational, so that they can look at that and have a little bullet point of resources going into the trip that they can check off to know how to approach these situations, if, hopefully not ever, or when they happen.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also unconditional, there's also things that you don't prepare for during the summer. I mean, some common things from Mother Nature are there's going to be more rain and more, wetness on the road. So that's going to impact things, as well as, unfortunately, more people travel under the influence, typically during the summer. Over a quarter of your DUIs do occur over the summer. And of course, you have major holidays that do occur. You have Memorial Day, which is a big, celebration holiday where a lot of people are off throughout the United States. And then you also have July 4th. So these holidays, in tandem with going out there and driving, do result, unfortunately, in potentially more accidents. So there's a number of things that you could do for preparedness. But essentially, some top three things I would recommend are essentially you publish content or information related to the 100 deadliest days of summer, create social content and syndicate regarding safety, and different types of like common things that somebody might run into. And then also make a video about summer safety and publish it on your channels and your feeds. And, covering these three areas at a minimum will at least get you started in having the coverage for when people are seeking information or to see you as a knowledge source for if, unfortunately something does happen over their summer travels.
I love that. And with the new age of what we've been discussing with AI and ranking SEO and Google, the things that you're posting on these social channels, they're ranking on Google. It can help you be found on searches. It can help you get discovered on a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Perplexity. And I think it's a great way for these agencies or for these lawyers to help themselves get found.
Yeah, for sure. And if you start with, some of those top three tips, of course, you can build on them, but even, refreshing them going into the new season. So as you go into 2025, and you see, what's trending or what, people might be doing, or even new vacation destinations in your, local region, sending the signals to the search engines and the AI that you are updating your content, that it is timely and that it is fresh. These things are all very critical. So make sure you're updating specific dates or roads, or even, if there's new theme parks opening, like in Florida, we have one opening up, go ahead and post about that content creative and make sure it's part of your repertoire.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great way for people to get in touch with the avatar and to start to educate that avatar on how they can be preventative, safe, and again, God forbid something happens, they have someone that they can call right away because they've been informed on the steps that they need to take if, for instance, something were to happen.
For sure, for sure. And you want to be positioned as the expert. Now, moving forward into motorcycle accidents over the summer, in particular, when it comes to motorcycle riding in, many parts of the country, it's not a year-round sport. In general, it typically isn't a year-round sport just because of the conditions that people like to ride in. And it does start to peak when you get into the spring and summertime, and goes all the way through, the fall. So making sure that you are talking to, motorcycle riders, that may end up injured or in an accident, or, unfortunately, when you're riding on a motorcycle, the accidents and injuries can be pretty severe and serious. So you do want to be speaking to the groups that people typically ride with, as well as their loved ones. So, remember that in the communication, that you might not always be talking to, in particular, the victim, because when you're looking at motorcycle accidents, the accidents may be more severe. But, some common causes of motorcycle accidents have to do with people in an actual turn, when they're actually driving on the highway. It's hard for automobiles and like car drivers to actually understand like the speed as to which like a motorcycle may be able to move up or accelerate. And then you also have road hazards that car and automobile may be able to just like roll over or just push through pretty easily. When you're on a two-wheel two-wheel vehicle, it could be a little bit more difficult to avoid some of those potholes, or if there's road hazards, there's
Totally.
rubber in the road or something. It could be a lot more detrimental to somebody's ride and impact them greatly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I drive a car that's pretty heavy. It's pretty low to the ground. And so, I can roll over some stuff and you might not feel it. But I mean, you've got a motorcycle, you got a rock, you're riding on a rocket, and you hit something, you got to be aware. And so, got to be safe out there. And I think what you said was true too. If I'm driving, sometimes it's hard for me to see that coming. You almost can sometimes hear it coming before you see it. Because they approach the road differently. Most motorcycles, I would say, are very safe. Motorcycle riders are very safe, but you always got to look out because you don't want to be getting over or moving over and not see them or whatever. And so it's a lot. I mean, when you're on the road and if you're tired or whatever, you've been driving, like we said, you're a family, you've been driving for 6 or 7 hours, you're trying to get to a destination, you got to keep your eyes peeled.
Well, yeah, when you're driving with the family, there's not only distractions outside the car, but there could be distractions within the car.
Oh, there are distractions inside the car.
But when you're looking at motorcycle accidents and injury and like some like top three action items you could take going into season, you can make a motorcycle safety guide to make people more aware from a perspective of what to be looking for when they get back into season. As well, you can make a motorcycle safety guide for automobile drivers and car drivers to what they should be aware of or what they might need to look out for so they don't end up hurting somebody out there.
Yeah.
Another area is to target groups on Meta, on Instagram and Facebook. Motorcycles, people typically ride in groups and there's ability to target them there pretty effectively. And then if you don't have a blog already about motorcycle accidents and injury or motorcycle safety guide, it's time to start a blog and, start to get that page up there and start to, at least update it and finesse it to get it to the next level.
Dude, blogs are an underrated way to get ranked on SEO, get on that Google ranking, show up in ChatGPT, Perplexity, all the AI platforms because they're reading all of that data. It's easy to make, it's easy to update. It's easy to get bullet points that you can formulate. That's a great strategy for people that want a piece of content that can be redistributed everywhere. In my
Yeah, and
opinion.
also don't forget the on-site content. I mean, yes, we always go to the blog to like update and nurture and create new information, but also go back to your core pages on the website and make sure that those pages are essentially being updated and they have relevant content and information to really, target when it comes to those riders.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
And as we go here into summer season, in technically they do say that hurricane season starts June 1st and runs through November 30th. But if you live in any of the regions, you know that, essentially hurricanes don't necessarily have a per se, calendar. So it seems to get a little earlier and go a little later every year. But essentially, the rain does start right about now, especially where I'm at in South Florida. So it is May. And, like I said, technically hurricane season starts June 1. But if you're looking to, essentially target your consumers, look, whether they're looking for injury or auto supported data, they're also looking for an information well. And if you're the information well and you're getting them ready for the hurricanes, when they have an injury, they'll probably still come to you because you're the one getting the content out there. But when it comes to an opportunity like a major storm or a hurricane or insurance claims, that does tend to happen, as a result of these events. There's a lot of things that you could be doing to groom your content or essentially be publishing content and information to make consumers aware of where their actual mind is at. I mean, if you're looking at families or parents or just adults in general, there's only a handful of things that they're thinking about when it comes into summer. A lot of it is having fun, and then that small percentage of caution is really looking at hurricane season or storms depending on where they are in the country. And unfortunately the hurricanes just aren't I would say isolated to coastal towns and coastal cities anymore. They've been having huge impact throughout the country as far as into the Northeast. So it starts down in the South, down in Gulf of America area, and then works its way up throughout the country in a lot of instances, or even can be starting in the Atlantic Ocean. But when you're looking at creating content related to like storm damage, it's really critical to go out there and create specific content that consumers might want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's a local market thing and you're a part of that local market, we
Yeah.
here in Dallas, we get a lot of hail damage on roofs. Our roof's got to be replaced. And the first person that I called was the guy that I know that publishes content. He's got a good website. I can see his certificates, X, Y, and Z. And so he was already pre-qualified when we had damage to come and assess our roof for free. Be that person in your marketplace, in your category.
For sure. So, like top three things to do when it comes to hurricane readiness and preparedness as a lawyer and attorney from a content perspective, number one, you can make a hurricane preparedness guide. So essentially what people should have, what things they might be buying at the grocery store or just have in storage going into the season. Two, you can make a guide about what actually happens if a storm is actually approaching, what you need to like double, triple check. Because, regardless of how prepared somebody is, when something's about to actually happen, the level of preparedness and the level of like cautions that they take just escalates And then three, you can make a post-storm essential guide as well. And that would go with the guide, like as the storm's actually about to hit, as to things that they might need to do if they don't have electricity, if they don't have internet access. People might need to be, thinking about getting a radio or, battery powered, devices that they might not just have sitting around their house anymore. When we were in the 80s and 90s, having a radio that was powered by batteries, that was pretty common. But these days, people don't necessarily think about those things that, the FM band and AM band, are supported by the government to essentially for emergency disaster purposes. So, if a hurricane does approach or, a severe storm, those are going to be some of the major outlets that are going to be, on air to be covering what's actually happening.
That's really smart. If your cell phone service goes down, your electricity goes out, your internet provider goes down, a battery powered radio like that could still potentially get you the coverage and the emergency feedback that you need. That's really, really smart. I think that's something people overlook now in 2025 that was like essential in the 90s.
Yeah, but like I said, as a lawyer, as an injury attorney, like if you're looking to position yourself to be top of mind, have the conversations that the consumers are concerned about. Like we said, going into summer, it's looking at vacations, family travel, what to do if you're in an accident when you're out of state or out of a specific area, motorcycles, what to do there in season when they're driving. So as an automobile driver, a car driver, what to do for their safety. And you're connecting with motorcycle drivers too when you're, preaching that cars and auto, should be looking out for motorcycles and, helping them with their safety. And then another great area, like we said, is hurricane preparedness and, major storms. So as you go into season, you have, chock full of content there for the next, 60 to 120 days of things to be getting out there that consumers are going to care about.
Dude, I love it. I absolutely love it. And this is such a good way for us to get this information to these service providers in an efficient way.
Oh,
and
sure.
I mean, you do such a great job with this. I'm so grateful that not only you're a friend, you're a colleague, you're a collaborator. I'm so honored that we get to provide social media service to these types of clients for you and your agency. I mean, it's a dream come true, dude. So I hope you know that my ability as a producer to be able to work with someone like you that's such a creative branding visionary is really, really, really cool. It's made me grow a lot. So I want to make sure I thank you for that every single week.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Every single week.
yeah, definitely. Like I said, recapping here, if you look at yourself as an injury lawyer and you're like, hey, well, I don't need to be concerned about hurricane preparedness. You have to think where a consumer's mind is going into season. Essentially, these are the things that they care about. These are the things that they're looking at. But that also has to do with summer travel, what to do when they're out there on the roads. But if you look at, some of the major players out there in the market, they're having that timely dialogue and that timely conversation with the consumers to be top of mind when that incident does actually happen, that, they're at the top of the mind.
I absolutely love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Legal Zone, brought to you by Exalts. I'm your man, Pat Hilton. This is the man with the plan, Zach Hoffman, and we are here for you. So make sure to click on our names. If we can help you, send us a message. We're going to have...
Or any specific questions about your situation.
Absolutely. We want to answer them. That's what we're here for. And we want to bring you the best content that we possibly can every single week. So make sure to tune back in. Let's keep it moving. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the next one.